I don't know what I'm doing! Ah! Shit! Fuck me! Shit! What the fuck? I don't fucking know!
Route 6. Bet you didn't expect me to talk about this game now, did you? If you've been on the channel since last year, you would have noticed that I posted a video non-related to Identity 5. That video was about Don't Starve Together and about a change that happened in that game, particularly about a character that I used to play as, Wendy. Now I wanted to make it a tradition to where I play a very different game from Identity 5 anytime the end of the year comes around. You know, maybe to expand my horizons and probably talk about those games or play them in the future. Maybe as a good stream game, or if I just wanted to talk about something about a game that I love. You know, something like that. So, for tradition, I'm going to be talking about a different game that isn't Identity 5 for this video. Don't worry, this is not going to be the norm. I will still be posting about Identity 5 stuff. In fact, there will be the Lanterns video coming out, which, yeah, she barely got nerfed, so that video is going to stay the same. I thought I was going to have to change the script a bit for the Lanterns video, but they barely nerfed her, so everything about I say in that video is going to still be accurate. So, you know what, thanks Nitties. Thanks for making it to where I don't have to change my script anymore. But yeah, going off topic, today we're going to be talking about a Roblox game. Now, I'm sure you're all aware about the dumpster fire that is the state of Roblox in 2025, and I'm sure it's going to get worse as the next year rolls around. I'm sure you're also aware about the state of asymmetrical games on Roblox as a whole. In fact, there was this one asymmetrical game that I really wanted to talk about, but due to all the controversies surrounding the game, not only will I hold back on talking about that video until a much later date, but also I just don't want to interact with the game in general if I ever do make a video about that game. I'm sure y'all are well aware as to what I'm talking about. No, it is not Outlaik Memories. But getting off topic, the point of the matter is that the game that I'm going to be talking about is not an asymmetrical game. Instead, it is the game that you are seeing on the screen right now. And this game is Route 6. Route 6 is a game that was made by Outlaik. Now, to some of you, that name is familiar. Outlaik? Where have I heard that name before? Well, let me tell you, because Outlaik was the creator of Sonic.exe, The Disaster. I'm sure you all who have played Roblox are well aware as to what Sonic.exe, The Disaster was. And if you haven't played the game or have, interacted with anything, I'm sure you've heard of the game. Whether it be from Forsaken or Pillar Chase 2 or even Outlaik Memories, The Disaster has been a cornerstone in asymmetrical games on Roblox and is by far one of the most popular and the most talked about asymmetrical games as a whole on Roblox. Now, if it's so big, then where is it? And if it was so big, then why is there a saturation of Sonic.exe The Disaster clones out there or just recreations of it? Well, that is because sadly in early 2025 or late 2024, I can't really remember, but around that time, Sega would take down the game via a DMCA and Outlaik would quit working on asymmetrical games as a whole. It was a really sad time and it caused a lot of shakeups when it comes to these Sonic asymmetrical games as a whole. In fact, it got so big that Outlaik Memories decided to make Sonic a survivor in order to, potentially hope that Sega will not strike down their game. However, that's not what we're going to be looking at for today, because as sad as it is for, Sonic.exe Disaster to be taken down, that doesn't mean that Outlaik wasn't done working on games. In fact, he felt like Sonic.exe The Disaster being taken down was a blessing in disguise because it allowed him to finally pursue making another game. And what that game would become would be this game, which would be known as Route 6. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I've been having a blast playing on Route 6, as you can tell. I have 24 hours in the game right now. I started playing around Christmas time, I think. I can't remember. But I've already scored in like 24 hours. I bought all the characters, bought all the perks, bought all the skins. I essentially did everything in the game as of now, and I am still playing the game as we speak. But what makes this game so special? What makes this game stand out compared to all the other games that are on the Roblox site? And is this a game that you should check out? Well, in this video, I wanted to talk about that and give a little bit of review on the game. as well as talking about a few things, talking about, some things that I loved about the game, some things that I do feel like should be changed a little bit, just like a little bit. And yeah, going over, everything that makes the game so special, at least in my eyes. So without further ado, let's just jump into the video, shall we? I guess since we are starting things out with the game itself, let's actually talk about what the game is actually about, because, that's very important when we're talking about a Roblox game. Route 6 is a Dead Rails type of game. He said it's inspired by Dead Rails in another game. I can't remember it. But essentially, what the game is about is you and a group of people, if you choose to. You can go solo if you want, but you all will get in a car and drive around to areas, and your goal is to make it to the end, which is around 4,500 miles or 5,000 miles, basically. And along the way, you're going to stop by certain landmarks, such as, a factory or a town or a campsite, until eventually you make it to a checkpoint. You drop all your stuff there, you sell things, you buy things, and then you rinse and repeat until you make it to the end of the game. That's the general idea of Route 6, and while it is simple, it is the thing that makes it the most effective. Sometimes less is more when it comes to games, especially games that, you just want to play for like an hour or like 30 minutes and then just get off after a while. And while a round in Route 6 equates to usually, 30 to an hour of playtime, it is a really, really fun game to play in because it is just that simple. It is that simple to just jump into the game and play it, and you typically understand what you're supposed to be doing when you're playing, this game. Upon launching Route 6, you will get the option to choose between two survivors, Ethan or Stella. Stella's gameplay is more towards support. She has two passives, and they're mainly about supporting your teammates and making sure they stay alive. Her one passive allows her to recover teammates who are downed much faster at a 50% rate, and the other one allows you to see the progress of the survivors while they're on the ground, so you will know when they're about to be picked up, so you can go and pick them back up. As for Ethan, he has two passives, one that gives him 2 additional items at the start of the match, and another one that expands his backpack spots to 15 instead of the usual 10. Now, for normal survival, I would honestly recommend you just go for Ethan. You just gain 2 survival items when you start off with Ethan. Those can be either a healing item, a stamina regaining item, a weapon, one of those type of items. And you know what? Those items are just essential to playing this game. Additionally, 15 backpack spots is a lot. It allows you to carry more items, whether it be, trinkets, which I'm going to talk about eventually, healing items, weapons, etc. However, if you're onto the more support style of game, then I do recommend that you pick Stella up. Having a survivor to pick up down survivors quicker is essential in this game, especially when you are being swarmed by various different zombies in the match. And as we'll talk about later, these zombies can be strengthened and improved as you continue down in the match. Additionally, the more players there are at the current match, the more zombies the game will spawn. So eventually you're going to have a lot of zombies swarming you. And so having a survivor to allow your teammates to get up and get back into the action quickly is going to be massive. However, it's okay if you don't decide to buy these characters immediately, or at least pick one over the other, because you can eventually buy the other character in the shop. In the shop, there's going to be other characters as well that you can pick from Kimberly to Marcus to William. And these characters roughly play the same. You can see that I'm playing Stella right now in most of my footage, and it's because even though Ethan has a clear advantage over Stella with her not having 15 item slots, at the end of the day, all these characters roughly play the same and don't really have an advantage over the others. The only real differential I can say between the stats is that Marcus has 20 HP at the cost of losing 20 stamina, and Kimberly losing 20 HP at the cost of having 1 more speed compared to the other survivors. Other than that, the characters do roughly play the same. Some characters do have abilities such as, William having a counter, Marcus having a charge, and Kimberly being able to craft a flashbang to stun enemies. Additionally, on top of the fact that there are survivors in this game, yeah, no shit, there are survivors, there are also skins that will eventually be coming to the game. As of right now, the only skins that are in the game are the Christmas skins for the main 5. I think there's 5. Yeah, there's 5. So the main 5 survivors, as well as there being an additional passive that you can give to your survivors known as gears. At the moment, there are only 4 gears, and they basically do what you think they do. They're like minor buffs to your survivor, whether it be to give you 15 more stamina regeneration, or give you 10 stamina, pick survivors up slightly faster, and make you bleed out slightly slower. You know, they're not the most game-changing thing in this game, but I honestly am glad that they're not, because it allows you to pick and choose whatever perk or character that you want to play as. For example, I always gravitate to the female characters in games, so I usually play with Stella, and she's usually my go-to survivor when I'm playing Route 6. However, I do like to experiment sometimes with the other survivors. The fact that I can just play Stella and know that I'm not at a disadvantage compared to, you know, if someone's playing Marcus or someone is playing Kimberly, you know, that's a great feeling, and I'm honestly glad that this was the route that was taken with the survivors. On to the gameplay now. There's only really 3 things you need to worry about when playing Route 6. Driving, looting, and fighting. Driving is self-explanatory. You need to get from point A to point B, and you need to use the car in order to get to that point. You need to get from one checkpoint to the other, and eventually you need to get to the end where the finale can happen. You could walk if you want, you know, if you're a psychopath, but typically driving is going to be your main form of transportation, and it's going to be the thing to carry you from point A to point B. Now, it's not as, you know, self-explanatory as I make it out to be, or at least as simple, because there are a few things you do need to worry about. For example, if you're driving too fast and you bump into an obstacle, then you're going to crash. These obstacles can include, you know, taking damage from zombies, because zombies will damage the car, and if it gets too much damage, it'll either stop or it'll crash you, depending on the zombie. If you crash into an obstacle, it'll just crash you. You also need to worry about the gas of the car, because yes, gas is a factor that you need to worry about when you're playing Route 6, because if the car stops, then you're going to have to walk the rest of the way to the next checkpoint, and that can be dangerous, as we'll discuss later. Additionally, you do need to worry about zombies clinging to your car. You need to worry about trees on the road, because trees can spawn on the road and you're going to need to try to avoid them. You need to worry about the car stalling, because the car can stall. And you're going to need to worry about one other thing that I will leave out until later. So yeah, while the car is a very big part of the game, and while it is very simple to control, it isn't as simple as you would think it is. There's a lot of complexity to the car gameplay, at least in my eyes, or at least it's more complex than one would be led to believe. Looting is very simple to explain as well. Around the map, there's going to be various, you know, structures, you know, areas, landmarks that you can enter into and begin looting. These areas include a campsite, a town, a factory, a gas station, a construction site or a junkyard, and the dreaded tunnels. In these landmarks, you can either find weapons, gas cans, healing items, or the aforementioned junk that I mentioned earlier. You typically want to collect as much of the valuable junk as possible, because there are some pieces of junk that are more valuable than others. For example, the least valuable item in the game is the mug, sporting at $4 per mug, while the gold statue is the most expensive item you can find, worth over $50. And in the middle, we have soccer balls, we have tablets, we have tires, etc, etc. I could range out all the prices, but I honestly recommend that you just play the game for yourself, so I'm just not going to talk about them. Also, I'm really lazy. I don't want to go into the game and look at all the items that you can find. Now, obviously, there's a big problem with this. There are so many items and landmarks in the game at a time. You know, you could find like 3 towns, which is like a ton of items in it, that you might not have the inventory space to, you know, carry them all. Well, that's where the trunk comes in. On your card, there is a trunk that is shared between the entire team, or is strictly for yourself. Now, depending on the amount of teammates that are in the game, the trunk will have less or more item spots to compensate for that. For example, if you have a team of 5, then you're only going to get 10 item slots in your trunk. Meanwhile, when you're playing alone, you could get up to 25 to 30 item slots to be able to store your items in the game. So yeah, I recommend that you do not be stingy. You just collect as much stuff as possible. And, you know, for the less valuable stuff like the mugs, like the ducks, You can just put that in the trunk, and then while you're looting, you can try and get more valuable items, and thus you can gain more items for your selling. In these landmarks on the road, and especially in the tunnels, however, there are going to be zombies that you will have to deal with. These zombies can range from, yellow zombies, which are the most basic zombies in the game, green zombies, tank zombies that can explode, and finally we have charger zombies. Those are the 4 variations of the zombies in the game, but I'm sure as Outlaik continues making the game, there's going to be more variations of these zombies in the future. Now, depending on which zombie you're going against, it's going to do a different effect or take a certain amount of hits to, deal with. When you start the match, you will start it with the most common weapon in the game, the bat. It has the most durability out of every item in the game, and it should last you throughout the entire journey if you're using other weapons as well, at the cost of it dealing the least damage in the game. For example, when you're dealing with a yellow zombie, it will take 2 to 3 hits in order to kill that zombie, whereas if you're fighting against the green zombies, the tanky zombies, it'll take 4 hits, and then for the charging zombies, it'll take either 6 to 8 hits in order to deal with them. Now, depending on the weapon that you buy or the weapon that you find, it could take a lot less hits in order to deal with those zombies. For example, a frying pan deals 2 damage to these tanky zombies and the green zombies. 1 hit for the yellow zombies has like 3 to 4 hits for the charger zombies. An axe does 1 hit to most zombies except for the charging zombies, which need 2 hits. It's etc, etc. It just depends on what item that you want to buy, and you're going to need to test that a lot because a lot of the items will do different damage ranging from how strong they are. Just because an item is more expensive doesn't mean it is much stronger. For example, I think the katana costs way more than the axe, but the axe does way more damage than the katana. So I do recommend that you do, test things out and then make smart choices depending on, the weapon that you're being faced with when you either loot it or get it from the shop. Now, if you find an item from the loot, like when you're in the looting page and you find like a katana or a bow, you might as well take it because it's a free item, so who cares? However, if you're in the shop, you need to be a lot more smart as to how you go about things because you do need to spend money in order to, get that item. When you reach 1,000 miles and it becomes nighttime, every night this thing will appear. This thing, from what I've read, is known as Plague, and this thing is an entity that is immune to damage and will chase down any player that is too far behind. If the players are driving in the car and Plague is spawned, then he will just keep chasing the car until he catches up, in which he will crash the car and force all the players out, or until you outrun him to either a checkpoint or until daytime comes out. Otherwise, Plague will chase down the survivor who is the furthest back on the road, in which he will just chase them down until, 30 seconds have passed, in which it will just eventually fuck off. Now, while chasing the player, he can do either one of 2 things. He can either attack the player, thus causing 10 damage, or he can grab the player, in which he will, consistently choke them until either the player dies, a teammate hits him and thus knocks them out of his grasp, or until the player struggles free, in which they will force him off of them. The only way to deal with Plague is running away from them. Plague cannot be killed, cannot be hurt, and cannot, in any ways, be forced away. All you can really do is run away from him until the timer runs out, in which he'll leave for a little while before coming back, and then completely disappearing when daytime happens. Now, something cool about Plague is that you can deal with him in certain ways. For example, if you're playing William, you can counter his attack and thus stun him temporarily. As well, Kimberly's flashbangs will also be able to stun him, so, she has a way of dealing with him as well. Otherwise, the only real way you can deal with Plague is by stamina management and just keeping your distance until he eventually fucks off. Once you've traveled a certain distance, you'll make it to a checkpoint where you can sell your items and buy stuff from the shop. Now, you have a lot of items to buy, but thankfully there are 4 items that will always appear in the shop. That being the gas can, bandages, and 2 vending machines which will give you both Witch Brew or Bloxy Cola. As for the other items, they will be randomized depending on the checkpoint that you're at, and it will contain one of 4 things: ammo for your guns, an LMG, a random melee weapon of any kind, and finally a bow. Currently, there is a snowball launcher that is in the game right now. However, with the next update, I'm pretty sure that's going to be removed. Additionally, with the presents and the snowballs that you can pick up, so ignore those for now. With the vending machines, it's actually very interesting because even when the checkpoint closes, you can still buy sodas from the vending machine. So even when the checkpoint closes, you still have a healing item to buy with the Witch's Brew, or you could just buy and stock up on sodas for later in the round. I do heavily recommend you do buy the gas can though, since that will be necessary for your travels. Your gas will not be able to hold out even if you're at like 80 to 90 gas. You do need a full tank in order to actually make it the whole distance towards each checkpoint. So it is very important that you do buy gas. You get 50 per buy, and you can fill up your gas from random gas cans or from the random gas station spawns. So it's very important that you buy gas. It's also very important that you buy healing. Remember that your healing can generate over time if you're below 50 HP. So if you really want to, you can hold off on healing until you get to like a higher health rate value, and then you can go ahead and use your bandages or Witch's Brews or whatever. At the second checkpoint, or at least after the second checkpoint, you will come across a structure that will be a mandatory thing that you need to pass through, which I like to call the military outpost. At this military outpost, you can find a various amount of lockers which will contain either ammo, a gun, or a weapon of any kind. It's usually going to be a ranged weapon, whether it be a pistol, a rifle, shotgun, or an LMG. It's very important that you do pick up on these weapons because ranged weapons will be important for this last section that you will have to counter when you get to the end of the road, that being the finale. The finale will always appear whether you go through 4,500 miles or 5,000 miles exactly. Once you make it to your final checkpoint, which is the fourth checkpoint, you will come across this military base in which you are required to fix up generators. Now, I do recommend that you hold off on repairing the generators left because there are lockers in 2 of the buildings which can give you either ammo, a weapon, or just an LMG for you to use for the finale. And I heavily recommend, once you get to that fourth checkpoint, to sell anything that will not be of value to you, whether it be gas, whether it be broken weapons, whether it be I don't know, like anything you can, because you're not gonna need gas anymore, you're not gonna need a car anymore, you're not gonna need any broken weapons anymore. You're going to need as much stuff as possible, whether it be healing, whether it be weapons, whether it be ammo for your guns. Like, you do need a lot of stuff, because once that final generator has been repaired, then what will happen is the finale sequence will happen, which will essentially be a timer that you need to hold out. During this time, a horde of zombies will be flooding everywhere, and they're gonna just try and kill you. And if you don't have the tools necessary, or you don't have the healing, or you just don't know what you're doing, then I'm just gonna say it blatantly, you're going to die. Like, you're just gonna die in the finale, and there's nothing you can do about it, sadly. So I do heavily recommend that you do stock up. I do recommend that, you be as prepared as possible, bring as much healing, much stamina, much like weapons and ammo as possible. I also do recommend that you just save your money throughout the journey, because at the finale, you're going to really need all that money for whether it be, healing, stamina, whether it be your weapons. Like, you need a lot. So I do heavily recommend that you essentially save up and buy when you need it. Now, a very big boost to the finale is that, if you're solo, then you're not going to have to survive for that much time. And obviously, the time scales up based on the amount of players that you have on your journey. So obviously, if you don't have that much people, then you don't have to worry about that much hordes of zombies coming towards you. However, with that being said, it is still important to prepare, because you never know what's going to happen. And obviously, if you're not prepared, you're just going to die. So obviously, that's just going to happen. But once the timer runs out, you will have a second timer that activates, and it will always be a 60-second timer. That is the amount of time that you need to escape. Like, that is all the time that you have in order to escape, because at the end, a helicopter will drop off at a random point of the finale, in which your goal is to try and make it to that helicopter. If you do not make it within those 60 seconds, then you just die. Like, that's just straight up, you just die. And it's very important to, try and help out any teammates that you can to help them escape. However, if you can't do that, unfortunately, you're going to need to leave them behind and escape on the helicopter. And afterwards, that's it. the game's over. And in my opinion, this is a really fun game once you understand what you're doing. I'm not going to go too in-depth about this. I know I said that I was going to explain all the things that I like and dislike about this game, but I feel like giving a general, response on how this game works will just be better in order to, explain how this game works. And then, in later videos, I'm going to explain the things that I like, the things that I dislike, my thoughts on the characters and whatnot. As of recording this is a day before the release, and I'm sure by the time that this video does release, then the first major update of the game will release, which will greatly shake up the gameplay of the game, as well as shake up a lot of the things, a lot of the meta, and a lot of the locations of the game. So I do recommend that you do check out the game tomorrow when the update does drop, because a lot of the things that I did say in this video might change, a lot of things might be different, and a lot of problems that I might have had when I talk about it in this video might have changed. So I'm going to enjoy the update when it launches, and I do hope that you do guys check out this next game that Outlaik has made. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this different video that was supposed to release at the end of last year, which didn't. Don't worry, I will make the Lanchinus guide, or at least the Lanchinus video. It's gonna come out soon, trust me, it is. Additionally, I will do my best to work on the Cubist video. There's a lot of time before Matador comes out, so, I don't have to stress out too much about that. And I'm almost done with the recording for the Lanchinus video. All I need to do is work on the intro and the, transitions. So, look out for that. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.